Bum, bum. All right, and we're recording and we're live. Welcome to the Movie Bros podcast, your favorite new podcast where you come to watch and listen to people talk about old and new movies. We talk, we review, we share our thoughts and feelings. I am Nary Science. You can't see me right now, but you can hear me because I'm on a cruise ship and I turned off the video to conserve Wi-Fi. With me, as usual, is Hilda. Say hi, Hilda.
Hello, everyone.
And Mike, Throat Punch Mercadal.
That's a carryover. People think I'm violent if you say things like that. That's a carryover from our kick flicks where it is thematically relevant. Hi, I'm Throat
Right,
Punch Merkel.
right.
I'm here to celebrate.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding.
Mike is also 6'5", and I went to a Marlins game one time where he just yelled out, "Hey, buddy, the line's back here!" And so immediately, I think of the line's back here. So I'll call you Mike. The line's back here, Mercadal.
I use my powers for good.
Yes, yes. Anyways, today we're going to be talking about for the record. If you can hear me, if you listen to the audio version of this, the video version of this podcast exists forever on our Facebook and YouTube channels. So make sure you guys go ahead and check that out. Also, make sure you check out the Instagram for Hilda, which is
At
sorry,
Tabletop
Hilda.
Gamer Girl
That's
on
right.
Instagram, where she talks about board games, which I want to do a board game stream with you so bad, but it's like distant. I don't know how to do it remotely, but I want to play games with you on Twitch where we just play board games, but I don't know how to work that out.
Let's set up a board game night on Board Game Arena. I'm playing on there a lot.
Oh,
hmm
okay. There's a way to do it. Then I'm down.
There is, and I have an account, so you can set up a free account, and we can play board games in 2 different states. Nary, feel free to join us.
Exciting.
Board game arena. I love the fact that Hilda's like, Neri, join us, and I'm like, I don't even have the Wi-Fi capability to join
Yeah.
for like an audio thing. Like, it's so hilarious to me. And to join us. Oh, well, why didn't I
When
think
are
of
your
that? Oh,
cruise ships getting the Elon Musk internet?
I actually, this ship does have the Elon Musk internet, which it's ironic because this ship is the internet has been phenomenal all week long, to the point where I downloaded Top Gun Maverick on my iPad in minutes, which is unheard of on a cruise ship. And then it comes time to record a podcast, and they're like, "Nah, we're fine. We're it's just it's like,"
Nothing
and I was
important.
like,
You've reached your limit, and now you
"What?"
need to be a
I was like, "Okay."
subscriber to watch what you download.
Oh my god.
Well,
I had that issue with Hulu. All of a sudden, Hulu was like, you're in Mexico now, so we're not gonna let you watch your TV shows." I'm like, but I've cruised before," and they're like,
when are
"Nah,
we
we're
gonna
not
get
gonna let you."
sponsored by a
I'm like,
VPN like every other podcast?
"Oh, that'd be
If
great."
only.
Anyways, so we're gonna be talking about Top Gun Maverick, aka Top Gun 2, aka best movie of the year. And we are first of all, the movie came out in, I want to say, May of this year. Is that correct, Hilda?
May
We're
May
pretty close.
27th.
April. Is
No,
it
me.
May 27th? Oh, yes, May
May.
27th in the United
Yeah,
States. Yes, May 27th, correct. So May
correct.
27th, it came out in theaters this year, 2022, for those of you who are listening to us in the future. It is a direct sequel to what was it?
1986.
1980?
1986.
1986's Top Gun. It says and I don't know where do we even start with this
After
movie?
30 years,
What's the
Maverick is
there you
still
go.
pushing the envelope as a top naval aviator, but must confront the ghosts of his past when he leads Top Gun's elite graduates on a mission that demands the ultimate sacrifice from those chosen to fly it. Directed by
Right.
Joseph Kosinski. Do we know anything about Joseph Kosinski? Because I feel like that like this is a big time movie. Like I don't know what he's done. He did Oblivion and he did Tron Legacy too. I didn't know that. Okay, all right,
Very
maybe
underrated movie. Tron Legacy,
Tron
very
Legacy's very good.
underrated.
But
Yeah.
we have this movie that is decades later that had been in production forever, and like you hear rumors about it. So much so that I remember you and I, Neri, went to we both loved the original Top Gun, but that we went to go see Top Gun when it was released in 3D in theaters in Miami.
hmm
That we just went there, and
I
I will say
To
this:
be
the
fair,
original,
you love that movie more than I do, and to be fair, I
absolutely,
only went to that because I wanted to see the volleyball scene specifically in 3D.
mhm,
That's
in
really
3D.
what I went for. Yeah, no, that's what I
There
went for.
is there's an
I want the current beach scene in 3D.
oh, I will say
And we will get
it's
there. And
we will
Miles Teller's little dance, but that's later on.
oh, is Miles Teller one of your guys?
Oh, Miles Teller is definitely one of my guys.
Okay.
That's on my
Does he?
list.
Oh, Hilda, do you
No,
Hilda, do you have a pulse? Is Miles Teller one of your guys?
what's really
Super
yeah.
attractive, super talented, nice human being. Is he one of your guys? Is he one of your guys? Yeah, yeah, Mike. He's one of my guys. Like I'm not even. I'm like, yeah, man. That guy's awesome. Oh,
Miles
that
I learned
shimmy in
of
the beach.
Miles.
God bless him. Oh my
I've
the
goodness.
learned
shimmy
of
on the
Miles.
beach. That was like the scene of the summer, the scene of the year. Miles Teller's shimmy on the beach.
I will say I learned of him through Whiplash because I
Same.
saw him in Whiplash, which is just a aggressively loud movie about drumming and jazz music and dickheads.
Phenomenal. J.K. Simmons and Miles Teller in that. That just
Fantastic. I
But
love it. But
did that movie
yes.
come out? Did that movie come out before? Did the Whiplash come out before Fan Forstic?
yes, it did.
Yes.
It did come out before Fan Four Stick. That was kind of
W-
like his
Okay.
big, like people were like, "Oh,
Okay.
there's this guy," where he like learned how to play the drums for the movie and all that stuff.
Well, he actually played music. He actually played music growing up because he also plays piano,
Mm.
and like he grew up playing, I think, in his I don't know if I can't remember if it was like his community theater or community church, something like that. Then went on to what?
No, no, no. Do you think that's what got him the part in Top Gun Maverick? It's like we need someone who embodies the child of Goose. Can you play Great Balls of Fire? And then he's
Yeah,
like, bang,
right.
nailed it in the audition. And they're like, I can't act. I don't look anything like. Well, he does kind of look like him, but it's like mostly
Yeah, oh, he
mustache.
does legit. I think that's what they. I was about to say. I wonder if in the audition they're like, we need you to put this '80s porn stash on, and then see if if you could. Oh, look at that. Yeah, you resemble him. Okay, yeah, that's good. It's
Should
Let
good.
me
we?
tell you, we were joking about the Top Gun workout like all summer, like after we saw this movie, because you want to talk about a glow up, like Miles Teller glow up. There's like pre and post Top Gun Miles Teller. Like same thing for me. Like I first saw Miles Teller in Whiplash, and when that movie came out, it was really funny because several people were like texting us, and they were like, "Have you guys seen Whiplash? Like, Sean looks just like Miles Teller, like this guy." And my husband, like, so we were watching it, and we were like, "Oh my god, like Miles Teller is like my husband's doppelganger, right?" But now it's like it's funny now there's like pre and post Top Gun Miles Teller because they look so different now, like the two of them.
He
But
in Whiplash, he was such kind. He was kind of like a pussy. He was like this guy. He was like meek, and he was like being bullied. So it's different in this movie when you see him like stand up for himself. And he does get bullied like in this movie too. But it's also like they everybody looks like fully chiseled, and I will say less shiny and sweaty than in the original Top Gun because that was just gratuitously like misted. Everyone was just glistening in that movie. But there he's like even though he's fully jacked, he's still like the least jacked out of all of them except for Bob, which I love
I
Bob.
was like, that's not true.
I love Bob by the way, where they're like, "What's your call sign?" And he's
It's
like,
like Bob,
he's like,
or
"No,
he's
no,
like, "What do they call you?"
Bob.
They're
Yeah,
like, "What do they
Bob.
call you?" And he's like, "Bob." It's like, "No,
Yeah.
what's your call sign?" He's like, "Bob."
Bob." What if his name is like Max Power, like in the Simpsons or something, where it's like a much cooler real name than his like call sign?
You know that is so that's Louis Pullman. You know that's Bob. That's Bill Pullman's son, right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I,
little fun
I
fact for you there.
I think well, we should probably talk about like the plot of the movie to do like
Yeah, I guess we should. We
yeah.
got we got Miles Teller distracted. I was just
We did get caught up on the Miles
Well, yeah,
Teller.
you brought up shimmy. You brought up beach
sorry.
shimmy. What are we not
That's
supposed
all
to
I've
talk
been
about the beach
thinking
shimmy
about.
for the next 10 minutes? What's going on?
This
I
whole
love
podcast. Hi, welcome to Movie Bros Maverick, where we're going to talk about the Miles Teller shimmy for 30 minutes.
look, I guarantee you someone
Yes.
will listen to that. Um, I will say that I like just talking about the structure of the movie, the way they bring you into it exactly the same start as the original one where they're shooting the aircraft carriers, which when you think about it was 100% gratuitous, was not part of the story in any way. It was literally just them like, hey, remember how the other movie started on an aircraft carrier? Here's an aircraft carrier, so you're right back where you were and immediately know what's going on. And then it cuts to him in like the desert somewhere.
But it pulls you
Well,
right back into the 80s nostalgia immediately.
so
And
The
so
second that sound kicks in,
yes.
that bong noise, that
Yep.
that like bong, that like atmospheric like hit, it's like immediately
Mike,
it's
you're
like, oh
cracking
yeah,
a lot, man. You're cracking a lot. It's really difficult to understand what you're saying right now. The audio is cracking a lot. I will say that when I watched the movie, I will say that in my mind, I always knew that they were gonna do callbacks to the original. And by callbacks, I don't mean story wise. I mean like the field. I was like, oh, I wonder how long it's gonna take for them to play the song, and they did not waste time. I thought it was going to be later on in the movie. Like that's the formula, right? Like wait to the end and then get them within the. But they were like, look, let's get this shit out of the way. Yes, you're gonna hear. You're gonna hear the Top Gun theme song. Yes, you're gonna hear this. You're gonna hear "Who's Lost That Love of." You're gonna hear this shit. So let's just get it out of the way now, while you can. I kind of disagree with you in the sense of what the gratuitous scenes in the beginning of being on a carrier, because it kind of showed the audience like, hey, for those who didn't see the original, like this is how a helicraft carrier works, and you kind of need this, like all of these moving parts type of deal. Like I'm not saying that it was in gratuitous. I'm just saying like I still
I
I don't think it was pure nostalgia porn at that point. Again, the
I
music
I
absolutely nostalgia.
yeah. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Nope,
Now you're
Okay.
still really low.
really
Oh,
low and cracking. Yeah,
okay.
I don't know what happens, man. Hilda, you were saying?
I was gonna say, I really love where they went with this storyline. Like, I can see why Tom Cruise waited so long to kind of say yes, because he had been approached so many times to do Top Gun 2, right? For years. And he for long, like you watch interviews with him, he's just like, it wasn't ready, or it wasn't the right time, or the script wasn't right. And this was actually first teased that they were gonna do it in like 2010. Um, and then they kind of got they got the go ahead to start 2 years later. um, but Tony Scott died, who had been brought on
Yeah,
to be the director. So then um, this they actually didn't pick this up back up until 2017, and then the original release was going to be in 2019. And then the pandemic happened, and there were all these things, and they were approached by so many different like streaming services. And Tom Cruise was like, no, he's like, this is such a big movie, like this was filmed for theaters, this needs to come out in theaters. And so they waited, and it was so worth the wait. And you listen to interviews with like even other people, other cast members of the movie, and they're like, yeah, like we filmed this thing in 2017. It got, put on pause in 2019, and it was like 2020, 2021. Is this ever going to come out? And, but it was worth the wait. I think it was completely worth the wait. I think Tom Cruise made the right decision there, like not to go straight to streaming, wait for theaters, not just summer blockbuster. It was like the year blockbuster. Like our local theater has it back in
well,
theaters again right now, just killing
it
it.
kind of, I want to say that he made the right decision. Financially, I guess you could kind of say that it made a little bit of money. If you want to like
Just a
kind of,
tad.
uh, just a tad
On
bit
a
of
on a
money.
budget of
The
170 million, we're at 1.48 billion.
billion. It is
Billion.
the highest grossing movie of the year,
Yep.
and which is saying a lot, especially in a year that had three Marvel properties come out, and you're still like, and it's still like, and it's still topped them. It topped a Jurassic World sequel. It topped all of those franchises that have built-in audiences that are gonna spend money, and they did, but nothing like Top Gun 2. They were just like, nah, I'll give
Yeah.
all my money to Top Gun 2. I remember watching this movie, and I was watching it in theaters with Missy. One of the times that I saw it, and I remember I was like, I think it was the first time I saw it. It was my wife, myself, and Missy, and then we went, and I was talking about how good the trailer looked, even though I try to avoid trailers. And during the movie, I texted Missy, this movie is really good. Like during the movie, like the first half hour, 40 minutes of the movie, I texted her, it's really good. She checked her phone like 20 minutes later, she started laughing, and then like 30 minutes later, something else happened, and I was like, no, this movie is really, really good. Like it played everything perfectly, the nostalgia perfectly. It played Iceman. It had Val Kilmer, which is a role that Tom Cruise fought for. Tom Cruise is like, Val Kilmer is going to be in this movie in one way or another. Val Kilmer is going to be in this movie because he had throat cancer and then he can't really talk very well. So he's in that situation. Anybody who's seen the Val Kilmer Hulu documentary knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I was really impressed with Tom Cruise as far as a filmmaker. All across the board, he made no wrong decisions. I'm like, this is like perfect. This movie, I believe, is far superior to the original. This is a sequel that far surpasses the original. In my again, my opinion.
Yeah,
I think
I
I mean
overwhelmingly
I've gone back and seen the original since watching the sequel, and I was like, nah, man, the sequel is so good. Jesus, it's
there's
very,
something
very hard.
there's something about these movies when we talk about like because this one and the Return to Oz, right? Like they're both sequels to projects decades later, right? Like
Right.
forever later. And so much has happened that this movie. So my example of like the counter argument to like, oh, they waited and waited and waited, what is Bill and Ted's Save the World, like the Bill and Ted's 3 came out in 2020 and nobody like knew it. Like nobody like it didn't like 2020 didn't deserve that movie. You know what I mean? Because everything got shut down, and like there was the whole thing with the Black Widow and everything gets pushed back and it changes
Oh,
the
Mike, we
time.
lost you. Your audio kicked out.
I can
I
still hear him. I can still hear him.
yeah I
Can you not hear him? Can you hear me, Hilda?
I think Hilda went dead.
Yeah.
Okay,
Nope.
well whatever. Uh, um,
I'll text her. You keep talking.
yeah. So my only thing is like these pushing these movies back at a time when theaters were like closed and things were going on where like even when they reopened there was another problem of like we like you they're limited capacity and there's not going to be enough money made and everything with these financial decisions and then they would put stuff on streaming where I don't even know how much like what the dollars relate to whether it's worth it to put it on streaming or not. But when I watched Bill and Ted's I was like, oh, I would have wanted to see this in the theater. If they would have released Top Gun Maverick in streaming first, it wouldn't have been any good. It would have been you need the big screen experience for
I
this
don't
movie.
know. I have a pretty big screen in my house. I'm not saying that the Top Gun. I completely enjoyed my time in
I
theaters,
guess I
and
mean
I
a
would love.
theater experience with other
Yeah,
people. Like, because I would have killed to
I
watch this movie with people in the crowd where there were so many fuck yeah moments that I was like, fuck yeah,
you didn't,
like
but you didn't see it in you didn't see it in the theaters.
no, I didn't. I waited.
Oh,
Remember, I waited, and then when you were harassing me to go see that movie for a long time, and then I
yeah.
finally watched it, and it was like, oh fuck, this would have been better in theaters. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
I was trying to I
damn.
mean, I think I literally did tell you. I'm like, you have to see this movie in theaters. Like, it's such a big. I'm a big theater person. I love watching movies in theaters, but that goes not just for big blockbuster movies. I believe that I just love going to the movie theater. I enjoy that. But I also enjoy watching movies in my house. I'm like, I could have gone either way. But I'm one of those people where I have fully watched a movie that came out streaming simultaneously streaming in on theaters. And I've watched the
Mhm.
movie in my house and then gone to the theater to watch it to support it. I'm like, oh, this is a really good movie. If I have the time, obviously. But this movie is fantastic on all cylinders. Like I just there's so many scenes. I love the fact that it didn't just stay in the planes at the end of the movie. It didn't
Well,
do
should
what
we
the
go
original
through the
did.
movie? We should like the story, like, because it starts off with him being like, showing him where he is, right? In
A
that
test
moment,
pilot.
he is not, he is so good that when they say there's a line, like the opening, because I just watched it today before we recorded, and then so I wrote down like stuff that was like, oh, that was dope, that was dope, that was dope, and one when he says, he's the fastest man alive. I was
Yes.
like, yeah, yeah, that's what they need to make him. He's literally the fastest person to have ever flown. He is so good that, like, why wouldn't the Maverick of Top Gun 1986 be the fastest man alive if he's that, like, that's what test pilots are. They're putting their ass on the line constantly. He has no family, he has no wife, no kids, no nothing because he's dedicated to this crazy fucking job. and that's all. And like, and even when he pushes it, when the guy says, "I don't like that look, Mav," and he's like, "It's the only one I got," which I thought was extra funny because Tom Cruise plays Tom Cruise in every movie,
Right.
and I thought that was really funny. When he goes and he pushes it, like, and he gets to the 9, and then he pushes, and he gets to the 10, and then there's that moment where there's like the victory, and then it gets quiet again, and you're like, "Oh fuck, it's he's gonna keep pushing it. He's gonna keep pushing." The sound in this movie,
I
the
didn't
music,
understand why. I didn't understand why they didn't want him to go and like we need to like we're supposed to get to 9 today. Yeah, but they said 9 is not enough, so they need us to go to 10. He's like, but don't go to 10.1. What? That would how the fuck does that make any sense? I don't understand how that makes sense.
because the amount of money put into these experimental aircraft is like, if you just because you want to be a badass thrill seeker push it farther than you're supposed to and something goes wrong, which is why he gets set down to Top Gun in the first place, is because that shit just cost them however many billions of dollars it took to build it. You know what I mean? Like,
Just make a Top Gun movie, and it would be you're just even out. How about can we talk about how badass Ed Harris? I mean, Jesus,
he's only there for
he's
5 seconds. I get it. It's like it's good to have
he.
him, but he's like,
That's what I'm saying. He's there for 5 seconds, and he fucking lit that shit up. I'm like, man, fucking Ed Harris. What a great. I mean, it was so good to see. I'm like, I'm one of those people. If you're gonna do a cameo for the sake of doing a cameo, that's one thing. But like, he like literally did a great job. And how great does Ed Harris still look in fucking aviator glasses? Holy shit! At some point, you're just gonna be like, is like, just bring the aviators with you, man.
I
Like
get it.
every
I
movie.
get what you're saying, but also I don't. Like it's fine. It's a cameo. It's nice to have him there. But
Oh,
also
I thought
he's
he did
not the
great.
guy, he's not related to anything of the previous one. It's not a throw. It's just nice to have him there. You know what I
Right.
mean?
I don't need him to have like, oh, his character's important. I don't need that shit. But I did appreciate Ed Harris in an Ed Harris military role. I'm like, this
Yeah, I mean he's
harkens back
always
to the Rock type
I when I
vibes.
saw him there and they talk about, "Oh, that's the drone ranger." Right? I
Yeah.
thought when I first saw this movie, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be the classic a human versus a drone situation," which I think had been done. And at that point I was like, "Ah,
It-
is it going to
it's
be
called stealth. It's
yeah,
called
stealth.
stealth.
That's the one. Good lord, what a
What a
fucking
dumpster
bag of
fire.
shit that was. But like at a certain point, it's like, oh, whatever. But they introduce him, and then nothing happens with that. That's why I was like, oh, okay. It could have literally been anybody. And
Yeah, but it was still great to see him.
I mean, yes, of course, it's Ed Harris, but it didn't really add much. I just thought it was like, oh, well, there's a
Uh,
famous friend. You know, like that's a
well,
person
it's a
who's on
great,
the
and it's I enjoyed the fact that the drone ranger was not some young yuppie where they were gonna be like, it's the young guy versus the old guy, and the young guy believes in technology more than the old guy believes that it should be man powered. It was an old guy that's like, well, I don't fucking need you, you stick jockey. I'm like,
stick
yeah,
jockey.
you
Yeah,
fucking
stick jockey.
tell him, Ed, you
Yeah.
fucking tell him.
I don't know.
I was like,
It's a lot. I completely forgot about him until you mentioned him just now. I was like, oh yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
well,
He's in there.
yeah.
So I mean, I get it. But also, there's so much more in this movie than that guy. Like
But also, why couldn't they have other people like Sunrise? Why couldn't Sunrise make a cameo, be in the
Sunrise.
movie again? Sunrise was the black guy in Top Gun with
It was
the
Merlin.
mirrored with the silver mirrored aviators.
Oh yes. What that guy went on to be? Was he was on Walker Texas Ranger?
Sunrise was his call sign.
I forget what
Yes,
his.
exactly. He just
Yeah,
passed
yeah.
away like 2 weeks ago.
Yes, that's right. He
Yeah,
was
so
in
he like
Die Hard.
correct,
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
correct.
yeah.
So they could
I
have had him in a
there's
cameo. I'm like, all right.
they also could have had Kelly McGillis. They could have had a whole bunch of people, but they didn't. They like
No, no, you could not have had Kelly McGinnis. No, you could not have
there's
had
you
Kelly
could have had
McGinnis.
her in the movie. It's just because she's older now. She's just an older woman. He's old. Tom Cruise is old.
Yeah,
I
but
think
Tom Cruise at his
I think
age looks, you know.
Hilda, welcome back.
hi, so sorry guys.
That's okay.
I got
What were you gonna say?
uh I think I don't I mean sorry, I missed up I had some technical difficulties, but I am back now. So I don't know if you covered this or not, but I I don't know if you like I agree with you, Mike. I don't know if bringing in Kelly Mills would have been a good idea for this because bringing back Penny was perfect. And not talking about the actress,
I
not
agree.
talking about but the fact that you're going to bring in this kind of mystery person who played apparently such an important role again in that it was a one-liner in a bar, a one-liner where when he's being reprimanded in the office, you know, And then all of a sudden we meet her and we realize that, oh, this has been like an ongoing love story off and
Well,
on
it goes to show
for
how much
decades.
time has actually passed. Like,
Right.
because,
Exactly.
you know,
Which I
honestly,
appreciate. I appreciate that they don't try to fuck with us like so many sequels do. And this, like, so if you watch 48 Hours and then you watch another 48 Hours, it's supposed to be like the next year, like the next day or something. It's supposed to be like right after another 48 hours is supposed to take place right after 48 hours. But if you watch it, Eddie Murphy has gained weight, and the
mhm,
suit they still kept the same suit from part one, but he doesn't fit the same as part one. So if you watch it, you see those buttons that are trying to fight for their life, to stay together or whatever. And it's always weird. And then Nick Nolte himself into looking completely older, and you're like, these people are clearly not the same age. There's not you can't. Why are you trying to tell me that the fucking movie is taking place the next weekend or whatever the fuck it was? And that's how I feel about. That's what I appreciate about this movie. I'm like, oh, I appreciate the fact that they're like, hey man, it's been a long time. Let me
yeah,
fill you
Yeah.
in on what's happened. Let me fill you in on what's happened, but
Yeah.
let me not do it with cutscenes. Let me just, I'm
well,
gonna,
I,
I'm gonna
Yes.
trust you as an audience
yeah,
Yeah. And even when it's not,
to
and
understand that
even,
just by me
even,
talking, you're gonna get what.
there, yeah, he's
right.
cutting out.
Oh,
Go,
he's
go
cutting it.
ahead,
But
Zelda. Yeah, yeah,
no, but like even, and like they do it in other ways too, right? Because you have it in subtle dialogue where he's talking to Penny's daughter at the bar and it's small talk and it's like, oh, how's your dad? And she's like, in
wherever
on
with
vacation
with her
with his
husband.
wife.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Hawaii,
And you're
Hawaii.
like, okay. And then Tom Cruise is, you know Pete clearly he's not wanted to be grounded, right? So he keeps avoiding all these advancements because it's going to pull him out of the air. But you see where he's living in the hangar and it pans, like the scenes pan and it's the wall with all the pictures. He's watched, he's watched Rooster grow up, even though
yeah,
there's that tension between them. So it's like you get this feeling of a lot of time has passed.
yeah.
Like uh, Goose's son has grown up and he played Little League and then he went into the Naval Academy after I delayed him. And but even through all of that, he's cared for this
Well,
boy who's now a man. And
we're really
and
slow.
again, 30 years has passed. It's been 30 years.
We're
So
really slow step in the plot because we don't really have a lot of time to talk about these movies. There's so much
yeah,
in these
there's so
films,
much. Yeah.
but what it really is the classic military training for a mission and then having the mission at the end of the movie. It's very much training, 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 training. Like the whole point of the original movie, like it wasn't to go to war. That whole shit happened accident, like, oh,
Yeah.
emergency, a plane crash, you got to go over there and all this stuff. A war might start with the Russians and all this stuff, et cetera, et cetera. Which in this movie, it found it very tricky that they could not name the country. At no point did they name the country where this nuclear base is being built. They just, here's a bunch of mountains, here's a target, and we're training to go in there
Well,
because
yeah,
it's
they don't want to
They did it
name
in
a
the
country because they want it to be
they
they
didn't in
wanted
the
to
first
play
one either.
they wanted to the theaters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
but
everyone is
they just want. It's clear like, hey, we're not gonna say any movie. We're not gonna say any country, but
Yeah.
we want all the theaters to carry this movie. It's pretty
like
obvious.
at a certain
I
point
thought,
they could have
anyways.
literally just done, it's like, what, we can't go flying into China to then be to bomb our targets. Like there's those jurisdictions we can't go flying into Russia to then be,
Right.
like they can't, they just need to have turn away from the camera at the right moment and then they could insert the country there. But they show the training, they show him go back to the training. There's always the guy in charge that's the hard ass that doesn't like him because he's anti-authority, and then he's got to be the one, which at a certain point when like they finally reveal that Maverick is going to be the one to go on the mission, it's like, of course there were so many Chekhov's guns in this movie that are perfectly like set up and then pay off later. We're like, of course he's the best pilot, he's going to go do the mission. You know what I mean? Like just because he's a dickhead and he's bad for authority doesn't mean he's not the best pilot. They're gonna go. He's gonna
You
go
know,
do it.
so
It's not just
one
that though.
thing.
He carries such a heavy weight. He carries such a heavy weight when he lost Goose, right? And he's put in this position now where he's gonna, he's training these recruits, or these pilots. They're not
His
recruits,
ego
but
monsters.
He's
these
trained.
the
Well,
best of
yes,
the best put someone they're
but
good
also he knew that somebody's not coming back from this mission, right? That was the whole
that
thing.
was
That
the
someone's not
thing.
coming back, and he's like, if I'm sending these men and women out on this mission, and one of them's not going to come back, then I'm going to. And I think from the beginning, which is why in the beginning he was like, okay, this is how I'm going to do it, and they were like, no, we want you to train them, and he's just like, what?
Hmm.
Because he's like, how can
Oh,
I, it's like that, it's that weight of how can I send in this squad
Yeah.
without me, and
But that's why
I'm
you
responsible
like
for one of them not coming back.
for the meta knowledge of the movie. Like you're not going to go watch the finale where Tom Cruise is standing on the aircraft carrier waiting for these people to come back. It's going
Right.
to be the supporting cast watching him be the hero, which to a certain extent at the end when they do kind of pull a fast one where he does. There's a part of me that wonders if there's a whole version of this movie where he does die out there, but
Yeah.
and it doesn't go into the rescue mission, but or some other version of that where like that whole and like what you said where it gets on the ground at the end and they end up in of course the coolest plane of all time, the F-14 Tomcat, the relic, real strong Millennium Falcon in the Force Awakens vibes, like that piece of shit, like yeah, that piece of shit, that relic is going to be the thing that is going to get us out of here. That whole pay, there's so many things that get set up and they pay off there, including like the Cobra maneuver. You hit the brakes, I'll fly right by, and then when you see the advanced
oh yeah.
fighter do the thing, and they're all like, "What the fuck?" Like because the thing did like a full half spin 180 to come right back around and like there's so much payoff stuff, and especially in the training montages that are the sixth generation fighter. They never call it anything because they don't call it the F-35 or anything like that because it was actually a failed project. All those new planes suck. They're too expensive, waste of taxpayer dollars, which is something I had to put away when I watch movies like this where I'm like not above military jingoistic propaganda. Like it's like yeah, fighter
But do you know
jets,
in the
USA.
original Top Gun, Iceman was supposed to be played by Matthew Modine. Not he did not audition. They offered him the role, and Matthew Modine turned it down not once, not twice, but three times because he did not believe in giving propaganda to the military. He's like, this is a fucking
Wow.
military just jerk off. This is the whole military jerk off movie, and I'm not about that. This is like telling people that war is good, and war is not fucking good. So
Mhm.
he did this whole thing where he took a stand. I'm like, good for you, Matthew Modine. However, it's a fucking great movie. You're dumb.
It's a great
Wait,
movie.
Well,
wait.
they talked
It
very
really is.
cavalierly
It's a
about
great
like
movie.
how many kills did you get? And I was like watching, we're like, oh, he's the only fighter pilot in the last 40 years that has some sort of confirmed kills, and they never
Five.
show like, yeah, well at the end, and
I,
they never show like any of the enemy fighter pilots' faces because it's like that's a person, like they
Well,
got
yeah, it's
on
kind
it,
of like
which is very
Austin
military.
Powers. It's kind of like the Austin Powers, the henchman. You never know when the henchman dies, and then that scene where they cut to, and it's like they're calling the wife of the henchman, and she's like, "Oh my God, your dad's not coming home," and it's like, "Yeah, but he's a henchman. He's a
Yeah,
he's a back,
I
like
mean,
you know what I mean? It's a movie.
I get
It's
it,
a
but it's
movie.
also
It's
like
a movie.
the
It's
recruitment for the Navy went up like incredible numbers after the original Top Gun came out, and now it's like a little
Yeah, but
different.
those recruitment numbers are by those recruitment like but yeah, but 98% of those recruitment numbers are by dummies that believe that they're gonna be fucking Tom Cruise. Fucking
But that's the
dumbasses.
thing, man. Like it doesn't
So
matter once
funny.
they got him, they got him. But
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
that's
Same
to
thing.
the point.
Yeah, when Rocky came out, the boxing gym membership skyrocketed, and then everybody got fucking punched in the face, and like, this is not for me. I am not fucking Rocky. I am
No,
not
thank you.
that guy. So,
But realistically, like I do have to
um,
put all that away when I watch a movie like this because I fucking love fighter jets, man. I loved this movie as a kid because it was all about like planes, and my dad was in the Coast Guard and I was around helicopters and stuff. So like I loved the tools used by the military if it was just to show off and have fun, not to like kill and bring war and drop bombs and all that stuff. Because it's true what they're talking about. These fighter pilots, they're the best in the world at dropping bombs from 100 miles away and all that shit. Like he's like they've never been in a dogfight, and it's like yeah, it's kind of true. Like they're not practiced at the skills that this
yeah.
guy has shown. And even in Top Gun, the original, they were talking about how old, like it's all just training at this point. So it begs the question, like, what's the point of all of these fighter pilots? Maybe the drones are the way to go and all that stuff. That's a Top Gun 3 maybe, but it does beg the question. Like, I do when I see these people flying these fucking jets, especially in the shots in the movie as a filmmaker where Tom Cruise is like, no, we're going up in these jets and you're gonna film my face go like this when I hit the 6 G's of a turn, and I have to like bear down so I don't pass out and all that shit. Well, you could see it in the shot. It's like, damn, that is amazing. That is so much better than whatever green screen someone was gonna do.
Yeah, these were, I don't know if you guys covered
Yeah.
it when I was having technical issues, but um those scenes were actually filmed inside, like in flight. They, like, the cast had to go through like a 6 month training before they were even allowed to fly. There were like requirements. Um and it was for because those G forces, just make sure that they were physically able. And there was they outfitted a plane with camera equipment, and essentially at certain points the actors were actually directing themselves up, up in the air, because they were like, you can't fake, like
Yeah,
you
that
can't
was
fake the desired effect, right,
It's
of what.
acting, Hilda. It's acting. They're acting. When the six
now when
G's hits you, you're
now when
just
your
like,
blood leaves your brain, because I love
that's.
that stuff. Whenever they put
I'm
like
sorry.
the
If you can't act like you're in 6 G's while being in 6 G's, then maybe your blood's maybe acting's not in your blood like you thought it was. You know.
well it's like in Apollo
Speaking
13.
of blood work.
Like Apollo 13 is like one of my favorite movies where you like that shit's floating around up there. It's not on strings. They're not dicking around. They're not like pretending and doing all stuff. They're floating around in a set, and they have to act with like
in
in
0 G's, yeah.
low gravity. And they went up there and they fucking did the whole movie that way. Like I respect that to a certain degree where it's like the realism is in the like in the little things. Like Tom Cruise didn't have to pull his cheeks down for us to see how hard he was like, like fighting. Like that is the environment is inherent in the storytelling. Like that to me is very, very cool. I will say there is a lot of this movie that is, of course, set up in a very kind of that's the Mission Impossible to another Tom Cruise movie where like it's this has to be shot into this perfectly. Two miracles have to happen. I love that the way of there's a lot of good writing in this movie that it's good writing in the sense of like it's bad writing in the sense of people don't really talk like that, but it's good writing in the sense where it's like this is the shit that you need to know right now, and this is how it's going to connect later on, and this pays off this way, and this
Right.
explains that, and you're on board. Like
I thought it
a
was
lot
really
of
great writing.
shit.
There was that scene in the classroom where he was like, "Why is he dead?" He's like, "Don't tell me. Tell his family. Why is he dead?"
Yeah.
And then when he says, "Oh, because I didn't communicate," and he was like, "Is there a reason? Is there a good enough reason to his family why
Yeah,
he's dead?
Like,
one that they'll accept.
One that
yeah,
they'll
one that they'll
accept." And
accept.
it's such a
Yeah.
great line, and it just shows you again what Hilda was talking about, the weight that he's carrying over Goose's death. Is like, dude, like he's trying to teach these kids like this is real,
Yeah.
life and death, this is fucking real. Don't be, yeah, you're not the cool kids, bro. This isn't
Uh,
about being the cool kids and slinging your dick around. This is death,
yeah, yeah.
you
There
know?
was
Yeah.
one line where because there was a whole bunch of moments where there was the "Talk to Me, Goose," and then I
Yes.
remember the
Yeah.
first time I watched it when Rooster goes, "Talk to me, Dad." I was like,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I know.
it was like a
I was
perfect like, heightened
I
emotion.
did not think I did not think I was so excited going into this movie, right? And I didn't think I was gonna I thought I'd get like maybe a little teary at the end. I was like straight up crying several times
Yeah,
throughout. I was like, oh my goodness. Like,
Yeah, the
yeah.
scene with Val Kilmer where he's literally just typing on the computer, and then Tom Cruise is
yes.
is reacting and just act like doing a one-sided scene. Like I was like, man, maybe Tom Cruise is a good actor. He's good at being Tom
He's
Cruise, and that was a great Tom
Dude, he
Cruise.
is
That
legitimately.
scene.
Here's the thing. So Tom Cruise always gets shit because, rightfully so, because he always plays the same character, and his character is always the quote unquote best at everything.
Yeah,
So whatever movie he's in, with the exception of War of the Worlds, he's always the best. Whatever, the best fighter pilot, the best this, the best that. He always plays the best. But in the scenes where it's called for him to be vulnerable, such
Yeah.
as in War of the Worlds, such as in this movie where he's talking to Ice and he let his guard down. He could be Pete. He's no longer Maverick. He could fucking be
Mhm.
Pete. Where
Yes.
Iceman literally says, "We need Maverick." These kids need Maverick, and he's not being Maverick at that moment. He's being fucking Pete,
Yeah.
and he just breaks down from one simple question, and he's like, "You need to let it go," and he's like, I can't," and he just goes on his whole like you said, one sided, almost a monologue, and I'm just like, "Fuck, it's so good, dude,
And Val
It was
Kilmer
so
so it
good."
was so
great
heavy, and
character.
I thought too, it came to mind watching it. It was like I wonder if there was a bit of Tom Cruise wondering, like actual Tom Cruise, not Pete, in that moment. Like this is gonna be the last time I film a scene with Val Kilmer. You know what I mean? Just because
Yeah. Yes.
Val Kilmer is he's going through a lot, right? And he's like, oh man, like they're being reunited in this sequel decades later, such an epic movie from the 80s. And then is this the last time that we're going to be playing these two characters in the same scene together, right?
Yeah.
And so there was that weight that hit too. I don't know. I just so there were a lot
I
of
thought,
heartbreak
and
moments like
the
that.
end to that specific scene was perfect too. When he goes, who is a better pilot
Yeah,
between you and me?" And he was like, "It's been a nice moment. Let's not ruin it." And it's such a
that's
Yeah.
not re-
great. It added so much. The great touch of levity where you're like, "Oh man, this
yes.
fucking. I could watch this all day." Anyways, all right. So we got to move on because we got two
Yeah.
movies to review. But let's go to our ratings. Rotten Tomatoes has this critic score at 96%, certified fresh, for whatever the fuck that means. I used to think I know what it meant, but I don't know what that means anymore.
Fresh tomatoes,
S-
man. Nobody wants
So
soggy tomatoes.
certified fresh, unless you're making a stew. Certified fresh, 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. Audience score 99%, which just makes me laugh at how there's one person in the world who's like, nope, don't like it, and you're like, but okay, but I but it's
I mean,
great. They're like, it can't be 100. There's always that one person who's like, you know what?
you're doing
I don't
facial
believe in
expressions
perfect
when
scores.
your camera's off. I could hear you making the facial expressions. So what do you rank it, Hilda?
Yeah,
What's
that's
your
one
ranking?
I
out of
absolutely love this movie. This was
five.
probably my yeah, 5. This is I'm going 5 rooster mustaches on this.
Mm.
5 out of 5 rooster mustaches.
Oh, good, good.
I think I'm gonna
Mike,
go. Like the original Top Gun is a 5 out of 5 for me. This is a 5 out of 5, but a different five. If that made it's 5 Maverick and Bound. That it's 5 out of 5, but it's like a different flavor, a different feeling, and like I've aged with the concept of the movie, so it's like it was a 5 then for when I was a kid watching fighter jets. It's a 5 now for like the the structure of bringing up the ultimate fan service. Like this was a great way to do fan service right.
okay, but what's your rating system?
I said
What's your
5
rating system?
Maverick and Bound,
Five
five
out
out
of
of
five.
five
What?
Maverick and Bound. When he says Maverick and Bound,
Five.
he's about where it's like, who the
Mm.
fuck is that? And he's flying and he's like, it's
Yeah,
me,
yeah, I
mother
get it. I get it. I get it.
Maverick and Bound.
I am gonna go. I am also gonna give it a five. I'm gonna go 5 out of 5. John Hams being angry for no reason out of 5.
That's good
He's
too.
so angry. He's so angry. He's like, you get the
Cyclone.
fucking world's best pilot. You get the world's best pilot, and you're like, you just keep looking for ways to be mad at him. You're like, take it easy, John Ham. It's like, you're sir, your penis is larger than the man you're angry about. Like, take it easy. We've all seen that picture, right, with John Ham with the. All right. Anyways, so yeah, I'm gonna go 5 out of 5. I fucking love this movie entirely. Spoiler alert: Woo Bro usually does every year. They do the top 10 movies of the year, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna move that over to Movie Bros because hello, it's a fucking movie podcast. So we've been doing that for 11 years. We've had the top 10 movies of the previous year, and spoiler alert, this is on there. This was on there
Shocker,
for
I
my
know.
list. Um, I
We're gonna have to rush
absolutely love
through
this fucking
Return
movie.
of
Like
Oz.
wholeheartedly, just
Or
love this
return.
movie.
We're gonna have to rush through Return to
Yeah.
Oz because
No,
we talked.
this is a live podcast, so it doesn't have to be an actual. It doesn't have to be a hard 60 minutes because this is an actual live broadcast. So it doesn't. It's not a pre-recorded. So all right. That's a wrap on take one, which is Top Gun Maverick. That's a wrap. Take that out, and then now we're gonna go ahead and next scene. We're talking about the weird, super weird and super creepy Hilda kept fighting for this movie so that we could review it.
Yes.
Super
It
creepy,
is,
super weird Hilda.
yeah, yeah,
I think
yeah,
this
yeah.
one, like, I guess you've earned your theme on this show as this. If this is your like the one that you were fighting for, like we got to do a
Yeah.
Return to Oz, man.
It is
Well,
the 1985 dark fantasy Return to Oz. Yeah.
yes.
Why
Uh,
does this movie strike you? Why like hit you so hard? Like why is this like what is it about this movie that you wanted us to watch it so badly?
Well, okay, so for starters, this was one of those movies as a kid that I watched every time I could get my mom to rent it from our local Albertsons because it came in a Disney box. So my mom my mom was very particular about what I could watch, right? But this movie and The Watcher in the Woods, two Disney movies that probably have like no business really being Disney movies.
I don't think people
But
realize how
they
fucked up Disney movies were for a while. Like there's
for
a
a phase
ton
there, right?
of
In the late
Disney movies.
70s,
Yeah.
early 80s. And so I really liked The Wizard of Oz as a kid. This was Return to Oz. But then the first time she rented it and I watched it, I was like, this movie is really scary. And I loved scary movies, but I wasn't allowed to watch them, right? So I
Mm.
would have to watch them at friends' house and things. So this movie was just a movie I watched so much as a kid. And I loved anything that
so
was
let me give you the plot
yeah, yeah, yeah.
summary. Dorothy discovers she is back in the land of Oz and finds the Yellow Brick Road is now a pile of rubble, and in the Emerald City is in ruins. Discovering that the magical land is now under the control of an evil empire, she sets off to rescue the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, the Lion, with her help of her new friends.
It's a
Very loosely, very living
yeah.
fast and loose there with the generic description and plot summary.
So
It's
Mike,
Um,
to
I
super
think
dark. This was
I'm gonna say that I think
sorry.
that it leaves out a key element because it says, "Oh, she finds herself back in Oz." No, on the IMDb it says Dorothy, saved from a psychiatric experiment by a mysterious girl, is somehow called back to Oz when a vain witch and gnome key destroy everything. She was gonna get electroshock therapy
therapy.
Yeah.
to
Yes.
lightning bolts into her brain because they thought she was fucking crazy because they thought she hallucinated after a tornado destroyed her house.
Correct.
This is
In
in the
in all
first
fairness,
movie.
if your
In all,
child, I know neither one of you have kids, but if your child for the last 6 months has been talking to you as if they lived the story of Wizard of Oz
yeah,
without Wizard of Oz being a story that you know, you would probably be concerned as well for their mental health. You would probably be like, what?
Ab-
Like, it's one thing to have an imaginary
Absolutely.
friend.
But
It's one thing to have an imaginary friend, but it's another thing to like tell this whole like this is what happened, and then I put water on this bitch and she melted, and it's like what? Like if your
yeah.
kid tells you that for 6 months straight, where you're like it's no longer a phase, you would also like branch out and be like maybe we should go to a
absolutely,
doctor,
Well,
you
Nary.
know?
yeah, you want
Absolutely, Nary. But you wouldn't jump to like shock therapy. You'd
no.
probably like have her talk to a therapist first and
Well, I
Well,
mean,
see
if
you
some
we're
all.
living if we're living in 1850, if we're living in 1859, that
Absolutely, but we're
the
not.
idea that the idea of a therapist might as well be a magician. That what might as well be fucking Oz himself. Where you go, what? You're gonna talk to somebody about your feelings and just get mentally better? That doesn't work that way. You need
So,
science.
Mike, real quick to answer your question, the reason I pushed for this so hard was because in Chad, Neri, and I were having a discussion off camera, and Neri mentioned that Wizard of Oz was one of his like favorite books, and I was like, "Oh, have you seen Return?" I was like, "Have you seen Return to Oz?" And he's like, "No, what's that?" And Chad and I were both like,
yeah,
"What?"
because
And
this
I
is
said, "That's it." I'm like,
Correct.
"We have to. We're
because it's
like, we
based
have
off of
to."
the books, which like a lot
The
of the
second and third book,
right, a lot of the
yeah,
promotion of this movie apparently was like the people who were making the director was like fired, and then George Lucas and a bunch of people were still like pushing for him to make the movie, and
yeah,
then it was
Walter Murch,
promoted weird because they were like, how do we promote it, because people are going to expect like a musical happy feel, this kind of like colorful musical, and it's not, man. This movie is fucking like a childhood trauma factory, like just producing image after image that if I would have
yes.
seen this as a kid, I watched it for the first time for this podcast. If I would have seen this as a kid, I would like a fucking like there's the head, the lady with the multiple heads that takes her heads off. The
Princess Mombi.
yes, with
Yes.
with the she
Nightmare Fuel.
nightmare. Even the good guys like fucking Jack, the Pumpkinhead.
Jack Pumpkinhead.
Immediately, I was like, "Good lord, what a weird situation!" And
I've
the
actually, so
reveal
I
is
remember I
fucking
also
so
saw this movie
weird.
for the first time today. This is the first time, or yesterday I saw this movie for the first time. But I do recall as a child seeing images of Pumpkinhead, but I didn't know that it was connected to this movie. I just remember I don't remember story, I don't remember it, but I do remember seeing images of Pumpkin or Jack Pumpkinhead or whatever his name is.
Jack
Jack
Pumpkinhead. Yeah.
Pumpkinhead.
Yeah. It's very
And
traumatizing. I will say this.
D movie
I
is
will
what it
say
is.
this: that's still not the creepiest thing. The two creepiest things for me were the Wheelers
yes.
and and the Scarecrow. I was like, "What the fuck? That's the
Yeah.
Scarecrow! Oh my god, it was super creepy.
What's
Shit,
also
super
messed up is
creepy."
that this movie was won an Oscar for the visual effects, which I think it deserved. If you think about 1985,
Yeah.
the Gnome King rock claymation, the
Yeah.
way that it was like, it wasn't just like, it was the way it was done was really good. That chicken, fucking the chicken, the talking chicken. I remember the first time, like when she starts talking, I was like, oh fuck, it's a puppet. I was like, hey, that's great, like because in that moment of like being noticing how cheesy things look and all that stuff, I was fooled. I was like, oh fuck, that's good. So
I
like
am
there's
I am this
such
very second years old when I found out it was a puppet. You're teaching me that it was a puppet. I legitimately thought it was a real. I swear to God, I thought it was a real chicken. I was like, "Oh, okay." I
it
swear to God, I'm not even exaggerating. I'm not
they
lying.
didn't exaggerate the chicken, to make it like a prop. Like they literally made a real chicken and then just made it go like this. That's all they needed to do. But like there was so much of this movie that visually, as an adult, I'm like, that looks amazing. But as a kid, would have fucked me up.
Yes.
Fucked me up. The fact that he gets oh god, where he starts getting more and more human as
More
he
and more human.
Yes,
absorbs.
Yes,
yes.
as he absorbs like this energy from these humans that he's turning into artifacts for his gallery, like he's pulling from them and becoming more and more human with each like soul that he takes. And it's just so dark.
Yeah,
Like
the deadly
it's
desert.
so dark for a
When
Disney movie.
when that motherfucking Gump, he's like, I'm just furniture, dog. I don't know what's up, and he starts breaking apart when he like
Yeah.
eats. Everything is just such a
I
nightmare
one of
fuel of a
per,
movie.
one of my personal favorite scenes is when you see this big tough rock guy and he's like, "I'm the Empire and I have magic sorcerer powers," and I sit there and I'm like made out of solid rock and all this shit there. And then you see him with the ruby shoes. You're like, "Oh, that's adorable!" Like he's just like and he's like wiggling his feet back and forth. He's just moving his feet, and you're just like, "Oh, that's awesome." I I I was fully prepared to not like this movie. I was fully prepared to be like, "Oh, here we go, another early '80s, mid '80s science fiction fantasy movie that I'm sure the effects don't hold up." Like because of what we saw with Willow, I was like, I'm sure the story was gonna be good because I've read the stories. Because again, these are one of the few books I've actually read is the Wizard of Oz books, and I'm like, so I'm sure I'm gonna like the story, but it's gonna be I think the technology is gonna be too it's gonna be too distracting.
Right.
That's what I
Yeah.
said to myself, and then I watched the movie and I'm like, this movie's fucking great. I'm
It
in.
it really was like, I could see like genuinely as an adult, like this was one of those like it would I don't know, like in the 80s it didn't know what it was. It didn't know what if it was a kids movie or like it's if it was targeted towards children. It had little Vicky Valancourt, Fairuza Balk as a child, like playing the character, and I was like, oh, that's Vicky Valancourt. But
I don't know
like
who
as
that
an
is.
adult, that the one from Waterboy, the one from The Craft.
Oh, that's her.
Yes, that's her.
Oh my god, that creepy. She grew up to be super creepy too. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
what she's the thing is that you watch this movie, and as an adult, like you see a bunch of people who were turned to stone and then were smashed and had their heads removed. Like that, when you think about it, is gory as fuck, man. That is fucking brutal. And then to have the lion and the Tin Man, and the way she described the Tin Man as chopping off pieces of himself
Yeah. That's from the
to
book. That's from the book.
fucking wild. Again, the books are supposed to, are you've read them. You told me that they were a lot better, like a lot more adult and dark
Yeah.
than
Well,
than
I was actually super happy when I saw that scene when she was describing her adventures in the original Oz, and she was talking about the woodsman. First of all, the fact that she called him the woodsman is already a key hint that it's not a direct
yeah.
musical sequel or tonal sequel to to the original movie, because they called him the Tin Woodsman, which is something they do in the book. And the way she described how he became the Tin Woodsman, I'm like, that's exactly how it was in the book. I'm like, oh, okay, so this is a lot better for me. I dug the fuck out of this movie, man.
It
I
really,
dug
and
it.
also, I love the TikTok. We got to talk about TikTok. The guy inside TikTok was walking on his hands the whole time. I read it that it was a guy who, in order
Uh
to get the movement right, he was like walking on his hands in a metal suit like that, like or
no, that's not. Well, there's pictures of him in the suit, and it's not necessarily. He was first of all, he
not
was like
surprising.
he was like 5'6", and he was, so he was a short guy to begin with, whatever.
What
But
the fuck?
the real sad thing about him is that he died at the age of 28, and I
Oh,
was like, oh yeah, so he died like in 1989, right? Right. I mean, this movie was done in
the guy who
85.
did TikTok.
Yeah, the guy who did TikTok,
Ugh.
the actor who
Which
did TikTok.
I love TikTok's design. It reminded me so much of the Golden Army from Hellboy 2, and I just was
Yes.
in my mind those movies are now in the same universe. And these were like he TikTok is part of the Golden Army. That's like you know how he's like
Oh.
the army of
Oh
Oz.
yeah. Knowing Guillermo del Toro, I'm sure he pulled some like, oh, this was a reference from that type of shit.
With the
No doubt.
mustache that
Yeah.
moves, like I loved it. I thought the style of the movie for being 1985 and the visuals and when you would see like the heads coming off and all the puppet work and everything, fucking solid n- movie not for children but made for children if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like the movie was made by kids, but not for kids.
Right, right. Like yeah, it's so weird. I mean, I can only imagine how
I
much
love that
cocaine
the
they must have
Gump
been
didn't
on.
want to go with them. The Gump was like, just leave me here.
Yeah.
You guys do this. I'm not part of this. You guys, I didn't ask to be alive. I heard a loud bang, which is clearly a gun.
Yeah, he's
And
like,
you
I'm
guys
dead.
just,
Leave me
yeah.
alone. Let me die. Let me stay dead. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I love that
Uh,
he was like, "This whole new world, what is going on?" He's like,
Me too.
he's like, "I was walking through a forest, and then now it's like, what? Where, what?"
He's at one point he's like, I'm a sofa.
Yeah.
And I was
They
like,
and
yep.
then the Gnome King eats his body, and he just watches like
So,
so
when you break down some of the
he
visuals
just
you're
stares
seeing,
in horror as his
it's
like
such a
they save his head off the sofa, but the Gnome King just like very happily
yeah.
eats the
And
sofa.
what I love about all of this is that there had to be a meeting about, like, okay, this is what's gonna happen, like a storyboard meeting, and then he's gonna eat the body, but the head's gonna watch him eat the body, and
Yeah,
it's like,
this is a Disney
but
movie with a body count of 8 and 8 and a half. Okay, the body count of
it
Return
has
to
a
Oz
higher
is 8,
he has
and
a
8
higher
and a
body
half
count. It has a
is
higher body count than Top Gun 2.
yeah, man, there's an extra half if you consider the Gump's body, but not his head. So
yeah.
8
That's
and a
hilarious.
half
Good lord.
body count for this Disney movie. Like
All
the
right,
Wheelers,
we
when the
Mike.
Wheelers turned did you the Deadly Desert? I
Yeah.
Yeah.
mean,
It's
come on.
so much nightmare fuel, and then
M-
at the end it's like a happy, shiny, happy end. But basically, it's hey, this is all real, and you're the only one that can know that it's real. So just keep your mental health under wraps and never discuss it with anybody, and then
Right.
point the mirror away. Like it's literally like such a bad analogy for dealing with mental health that it's like keep all those thoughts and feelings hidden inside. You know.
And Jean Marsh is as Princess Mombi. She's also I don't know if you noticed, right? But
Willow, well, this is also in the Willow universe because they're the
yes,
same person.
she is amazing in this movie. She is so that scene where she comes out and she like wakes up the Wheelers and she is just at the highest level of pissed off that like she
Fucking
could
wild.
be. She's terrifying.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
absolutely terrifying.
She tries to bite Dorothy as she went for the powder of life, which, come on, man.
Yeah.
That's clearly an actor's choice. That's clearly an actor's choice to be like, I'm gonna go ahead and reach and try to bite her as she reaches for this powder next to my head, my detached head. Like
And
that's an actor's choice, man.
I don't know if you guys noticed all of the parallels between Oz and the real world scenes, like at the mental hospital, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
Princess Mombi is actually also Nurse
Nurse,
Wilson.
yeah.
And the
Yeah.
Gnome King is Dr. Worley,
Right.
and
Yeah.
even the lead wheeler, he's an orderly, pushing the cart. Like it's
Yeah, for some reason the '80s half bald guys, like the balding, but like they don't shave their head. They just have the like that's the most threatening bad guy
slang.
in the world in the '80s was a guy who was almost like balding. Like he's not bald, he's balding, and he's got his weird like whatever hair that's left done. And I'm always like, why is that such an '80s thing? Like just shave his head. He wouldn't it have been scarier. Or, like I didn't get
Uh,
he looked less threatening because of the fact that his hair looked like that.
that's hilarious. All right, so Mike has to be getting out of here, so we got to wrap this up. So the Rotten Tomatoes on Return to Oz, the critics have it at 56%, which is technically still rotten, and the audience score is 71%. So that's a That's oof, that's a big one there. Um. Anyways, so what would you guys give it? What do you rate it, Hilda?
Five, hard five, 5 out of 5 stolen heads.
5 out of 5 stolen heads. Mike.
I'm going to give it if you know what you're getting into, it's a 4 out of 5 PTSD for kids. You know, 4 out of 5 post-traumatic events, nightmare-inducing for children. It's really dark, and if you know that going in, and you know what you're ready for, it's a great watch. Like it really moves. It's got a lot going on, and it's all rewarding. Like it feels terrible, but in the right way. Like it's like you're just like, oh, this is so fucked up, but in a good way.
I'm having a hard time deciding whether or not I'm going to show it to my daughter or not. I'm
Exactly.
like, ooh, she's only 11. I don't know if she's mentally prepared. I don't know if I'm mentally prepared for this shit.
Oh
I
I
got to
yeah.
be
know.
honest.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
So I'm gonna go with 4 out of 5. I was gonna say Belinda's. That was my original thing. Was gonna be 4 out of 5 Belinda's, but I think now it's gonna
Belina.
be Belinas. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna go with 4 out of 5 Wheelers. I'm going with 4 out of 5 Wheelers because to me they were the creepiest thing in the fucking movie, man. To be honest with you, the way they were hunched
The
over and
people
that's just
acting.
super creepy to me.
Yeah.
Super creepy. Anyways, all right. So that's our podcast. That's our episode. Thank you very much, guys, for checking us out. Make sure you check us out at all of our um social medias, which is at Movie Bros with an S pod. Except for Twitter. Twitter's Movie Bros pod underscore at the end. But everything else, go to our Instagram, check out our Instagram. It's trying to be more active. Make sure you like and subscribe. And if you hit me up with a like and review on either iTunes or what's the other main one? With
Spotify
reviews, Spotify. If you
review.
hit me up with a screenshot of the reviews, I will send you free merch. So do me that favor. Tag us at Movie Bros Pod on the social medias.
And in the review, give us the rating system. It's not stars. It's
Stickers.
4 out of 5 whatevers. But give us 5 stars. But tell us what you're rating us on in the
Look,
comments.
Hilda has stickers. Hilda went and bought
Yeah.
stickers. Anyways, love you guys. Thank you guys for checking us out. Check out the other podcasts on the Geek Bro Network that include, but are not limited to, the Better Let Me Tell You podcast, Shiver, the horror movie podcast, Kickflix, the the martial arts movie podcast that I do with Mike and with Jeff. Jeff season 2 of Cramacopia came out. All of these can be found at geekbro.net. You guys are great. Love you guys. Thank you very much. That's how movies are reviewed. Bye.